Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's installment of Align's Daily Dose of Advice, our way of bringing you valuable insights and thought leadership from business experts from around the world on various topics that will hopefully help you and your business. My name is Eugene Turk. I'm the Vice President of Business Development at Align. You can learn more about Align at aligntoday.com. And my guest today is Scott Omelianuk. Better known as Scott O, I think. Scott is the current editor-in-chief of Inc. magazine, where his responsibilities include developing new lines of business to serve the entrepreneurial community and overseeing the events and content that make up the Inc. ecosystem. Scott is a journalist, an author, an editor, a producer, an entrepreneur, a business executive, and an advisor with a work history that includes Esquire magazine, Polo.com, Details magazine, and This Old House. In addition to his current duties at Inc., Scott also currently sits on the advisory board of the MIT Enterprise Forum and serves as an entrepreneur in residence at the Stevens Institute of Technology, where he teaches a class on innovation and entrepreneurship. Scott, it's a great honor to have you join us, and thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks, Eugene. And now I know why I'm so busy all the time. You made it sound like
I was going to say that's the end of the interview. We've run out of time. Anyway, Scott, I know that you became the editor-in-chief of Inc. magazine in January of this year, and I'm sure that this is not exactly what you envisioned for the business and entrepreneurial environment, or what that would look like within the first 6 to 8 weeks of your tenure. So I was wondering if we could just start by having you tell us sort of what has life been like at Inc. magazine since you started.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, it's been two lives, not one, right? There was the first 6 or 8 weeks of my tenure there, and then the last 6 or 8 weeks. And they've been two different worlds, like they have for most people. But to back up and say, first, both have been remarkably gratifying and very exciting. Like most businesses, we started out with a pretty good quarter. And then about 2/3 of the way through that quarter, we realized we didn't know if there would be a second quarter because our business started to drop off that significantly. We were scheduled to appear at South by Southwest, for example, and had a big presence there with lots of clients, all gone. And we're talking millions of dollars of revenue gone just like that. And it hasn't been better for our print edition or our digital work, or the thought of any future events we might have, at least in the short term, right? So for us, we have the good fortune of being mission driven. And I think that's important, right? So despite the difficulty we're having right now, despite the financial strain on the organization we're experiencing, we get up every day and understand that we're really privileged to support the small business community right now, support founders and entrepreneurs going through potentially the roughest time they'll ever have in their career. Hopefully making it to the other side, but who knows, right? So I would say overall, remarkable privilege, thrilled to be running the brand at this time, and very excited that we're able to iterate and pivot in our own ways to bring small businesses and small business owners, founders, entrepreneurs the information they need right now to sort of stay afloat, or have a hope of staying afloat.
Right. You mentioned sort of mission driven, and Inc. clearly has a very important service that it provides to its audience, particularly right now. Can you sort of tell me, how has the brand pivoted? We've been hearing a lot about companies that have been pivoting. And so how has your brand pivoted, either products or its business model, to create more value for your readers?
Yeah, I think the first and most important thing we did was we converted a website that was a significant destination anyway for on information for entrepreneurs into a news-driven site, a 24/7 news operation, bringing people analysis of what the government was doing, what other entrepreneurs were doing, and sort of connecting the communities to be better, right? So we set up a newsroom basically, and essentially overnight. We've pivoted our in-person event business to webinars, and the first and most significant part of that was producing series of town halls with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce that dissect what's happening in Washington with the stimulus, with the PPP, with other future potential money, and with regulations around reopening that might be different state by state. We do that every Friday with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce at noon. It's free, and we get thousands of people attending. And then we package that content up for the weekend for people who don't get to attend the webinar
Hmm.
live. We extended what was an event business to a webinar business where we've had folks like Mark Cuban and John Paul DeJoria appear. I think it's really important at a time like this, right? There's the actionable support that you can give someone, the
Right.
actual information to help them through an application process or something like that. But more than that, there's also the emotional support or the exemplar support, right? And I think that's something that when we bring in big names to a webinar, it's nice to hear that, you know, they once lived in a car, right?
Right.
And they managed to turn it around and make a great success of themselves for that. And I think that's part of what we're doing as well. One exciting thing we're announcing on next week is that we're giving away essentially $1 million in advertising inventory on our website for small
Wow.
businesses that we hope can be a help. We have the ability to do that, the capacity to do that, and that seems like a no-brainer, right? So we're trying to be of service to businesses right now. I think that's the most important thing we really can do, and in doing that, I hope when money is flowing again, just like every business person, it'll put us in a better position.
Right. That's an incredibly generous offer. So that's awesome. I know that the current issue or the May-June issue of Inc., which I think comes out soon, is featuring your annual best workplaces list. I imagine that this was probably done perhaps pre-COVID or during COVID.
Um,
So I was just going to ask, sort of, how did the current climate impact how you went to print with that list?
Profoundly.
Yeah.
So the best workplaces is something that we do every year, and it's uh, application process and actually employee surveys and a lot of data related to it. So we started it 8 months ago,
Right.
and we started a survey 6 months ago, and everyone knew that the announcements were coming in May, right? And we had an obligation to get that issue out, acknowledging that it was workplaces in the middle of evacuating our own workplace, which had some COVID positive people in it, and even before the more general shutdown, and trying to, like so many people, figure out how we do what we've always done remotely, not in the same room together. But what it meant in terms of the output, which you can find on the Inc. website or in the print issue, should you get it, is that when it comes down to it, the idea of a best workplace is not a physical thing at all. It is not the office. It's not a ping pong table or exposed brick or a pet policy. The workplace can be your kitchen table or your sofa or your home office where I am now. It's really about the culture,
Hmm.
a sense of purpose, which is something that's really important to me and I speak about a lot, having the right brand purpose, but also an individual sense of purpose. And that creating that environment where employees can feel safe to take risks, to be human beings, something that I'm hoping that our new world of Zooming from our homes sort of increases. That's really what hallmarks a best workplace. And so we were able to pivot that and talk about that and not the physical locations, which we couldn't photograph anyway because most of them were closed, right? So there was, I don't want to say a silver lining exactly, but there was a moral to this story. And that moral was that the physical location may be important for some of us, and it's certainly a nice place to go to. I enjoy going to my office and not having my home and my personal life also be my work life. But that's really not what makes the difference. What makes the difference is the people, whether they're in a workplace together or working together separately.
Yeah, I certainly agree that the culture of a workplace is much more than just the snacks that are provided. So
Yeah,
Um,
great.
Obviously, your entire purpose is sort of telling the stories of small and medium-sized businesses, how they're operating right now, how entrepreneurs are dealing with the situation. I'm sure you're hearing interesting stories. I was wondering if you could share one that you have heard about a founder or an organization that has really pivoted their product or business offering during this pandemic.
Yeah, I think there's some really interesting examples, and some people we're calling big heroes of small business are companies that have pivoted to help in this crisis, right? So they may have made plastics before or textiles before, and now they're making protective equipment, right? That's one kind. There is a woman at a company called Farm Girl Flowers who we're featuring on our website right now as a floral business, right? Whose entire inventory actually dies every day, or she can't hold inventory. It's an on-demand business. She was facing extinction essentially until she took to YouTube and created a video explaining her situation to her consumers.
Mhm.
And they saw that and were kind of amazed by it, and her business actually now is on a growth trajectory, which is pretty astonishing given the circumstances. The turnaround there is amazing. And then there's one more I just have to mention. Down in Texas, there's a company called Everlywell, which makes home testing equipment. We have a story, it's actually our cover story in the Best Workplaces issue, of the founder, Julia Cheek, and her struggle in the course of 2 weeks to go to her board to get the money to
Mhm.
pivot the home testing they were doing to create COVID tests, and actually managed to go from doing none of them at all to, in 2 weeks, delivering 250,000 of them a week to first line people and municipalities. And that's an amazing story to me because it shows something more important, and that is with a sense of purpose, with some grit and determination, and a team that's all aligned on one goal, you can accomplish some pretty remarkable things regardless of the hurdles that are in front of you.
That's right. That's our mission, is trying to align people on their journey to success. So,
Yeah.
Scott, the question that I ask everyone who is a guest here on the Daily Dose of Advice: what is the number one piece of advice that you would give to an entrepreneur right now?
Remember how you got to where you were. You were resourceful, you were resilient, you were creative, and you were incredibly tenacious. All entrepreneurs have that in common, right? To get their business to a level of even small success. Those characteristics now are more important than ever. And if you can hold on to them and practice them, uh, tomorrow, doesn't have to be today. And hopefully each day past that will get to a better place. And what got you to where you are now will carry you through the time we're in.
It's great advice. Scott, it has been a real treat speaking with you, and thank you for sharing your wisdom and your thoughts with us and our audience. We obviously are big fans of the publication, and for those who aren't already subscribers, we obviously encourage you to go to Inc.com to see the great content that Scott and his team are putting out. Again, if you'd like to learn more about Align, please check out aligntoday.com, and we hope that you will join us next time. Till then, thank you so much, and we hope you make it a great day. Thanks very much, Scott.
My pleasure, Eugene.